James, you sold everything and moved your family to Spain. What triggered that, and what made this huge leap occur? Because I know it's not easy because I've done it myself.
So where to begin? I think the story probably starts in Florida. We were living in Tampa Bay, and we wanted to get kind of out of the major heat, right? So my company at the time had an office in Portland, Oregon. We flew out there, fell in love with the Pacific Northwest. If you've never been, you're an hour from the mountains, you're an hour from the sea. It's gorgeous. And we were out there for a couple years, and we always talked about moving internationally. When I was younger, I spent time in all over Mexico, the Caribbean, France. Uh, that was always my best teacher. And my wife studied internationally as well in Australia, and then we worked together in Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas. And uh, we got really caught up in the rat race out in Portland, and we just found ourselves jumping in a car to go everywhere. Jumping in a car to go to dance recitals, to the grocery store, to work, obviously. Everything we were doing was car based, even our weekends. If we wanted to go to an event, in the car. And we said, God, how can we make this change and get kind of out of suburban lifestyle? And my wife had an opportunity. She got a remote role, and they said, are you guys okay if we take the leap to Spain? And they said, absolutely. And so we decided that middle of June. We were actually vacationing with my wife's friends, and we made the decision, and we flew home and talked to our realtor and started the clock, bought tickets to Malaga, and made it happen with all the ups and downs that's involved.
Yes, I'm very aware. Um, in terms of uh, like headaches when it comes, because I feel like right now there's a huge interest of escaping the US, and we all know maybe why. What was the biggest hurdle once you started that made you sort of doubt the process? I have mine I'll share, but I'd like to hear yours first.
I think it's two things. There's that whole bureaucracy bucket, which we're dealing with today with the bank. That's challenging. I think the other really big challenge is nothing is easy. And I don't mean that in a way that's it's not going to be easy. But sometimes when you're tired and you're like, oh, I have to go and get I ripped my jacket, I need to go and get it, fixed. And you're like, huh, where's the place? What are the words to do that? How do I figure this out? And it's kind of that just continuous being tired mentally. That's really the challenge that I think people under anticipate.
Yeah, for me, the getting to move to France was I thought was just like, oh, we just pack some bags, sell our stuff, and it's all easy. The shipping container that we got, that was absolute nightmare. Logistics when it comes to shipping containers and how that world operates, it's still to this day, even going through it, I don't fully understand how they don't seem to know where your stuff is at any given time once they pick it up. And of course, we try to do everything cheaply. So we had all these random Craigslist guys show up ready to load the shipping container. And then we sat there for like 4 hours, and they just kept saying, it's on its way, it's on its way. And finally, the guy shows up and goes, oh, yeah, I had a flat tire. And we have a 2 hour window to load our whole house into the shipping container. And then once we got that done, I thought, well, at least it's like on its way now. Then, a couple months go by, you sort of forget all your stuff is in the sea, somewhere in the sea, somewhere across the ocean, you hope. And you write to check in, and they're like, yeah, it's here, we think. And then they give you these like false updates, and you're like, wait, it's coming in 3 weeks? No, it's coming in a month. No, it's coming in 6. And they just keep changing. And then it's like the as many times as they can, they try to charge you double for everything. And so because you've never done this and you'll never do this again, you don't know if it's accurate. So you got to like research. And does the French government actually tax for this, or are they just trying to say it is? So that's a whole thing. And then on the other side of receiving that, you have to do the whole thing as well. That's a whole nightmare. And then I have the same issue with patience. Coming from the US to living in Europe, you get tested every day of how, I mean, the mail system works and how nothing is open when you think it should be open. And I don't know how most businesses survive because they're open like 3 hours a day. And there's all those things. I mean, I imagine you have a list as well where it's like trying to just navigate your like task of to-do list, and you think, oh, I can just go here in the morning and get this done, and then you realize, oh, I can get one of those 10 things done, and it'll take like a week or two to get all these things done. It's kind of a nightmare. The one thing for me that I've learned after I've been here since August 2024 is that your life keeps on, but by living abroad, you've added so much more effort, like so much more effort you have to do to get things done to your just daily life, like taxes and running a business and dealing with visas and all these things. So you're adding like a side hustle that doesn't really pay off besides you're in a new location. Do you have that same feeling sometimes where it's like, why am I doing this?
There's 100% that. It's a, um, it's like the time tax almost is the best way to say it. You're, and you said it, you think you're going to get 10 things done, and you go to, this is a good story about that. So, right when we got here, someone said, hey, open up a Spanish bank account. It's just going to be easier. Do everything through that bank account initially because you got to pay your tuition for your kid's school. You got to, pay rent, pay bills. Just go set it up. So I go to set it up and I walk in there and it was maybe noon. Okay, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching my walk and watching my watch. And I know they close at 2. So about 1:30, they finally call me. And I go over there and they're like, okay, I want to set up an account. And they're like, well, do you have all of your documentation, your W-2, everything? I'm like, no, but I have all my bank information. I have my passport. I can just wire money. They're like, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, okay, why not? And so I'm talking to the lady, and of course, this is early in our journey. My Spanish is okay, but not setting up a bank account in Spain, okay?
Yeah.
So 2 o'clock approaches, and I'm like, do I need to make an appointment for tomorrow? And she's like, no, it's fine. I'm there until 3:30. And that's another thing about Spanish banks. The hours you were talking about, they work 9 to 2. Not like we're open again at 5 o'clock. No, 9 to 2. That's the bank day. And so I end up staying there until 3:30, 3:45. And I still have to go back multiple times to get this account set up because she's saying things to me like, well, where's your money come from? I'm like, well, I have W-2 income, I have rental income, I have side business income. Finally gets set up. But you think, I mean, in the US, walk into a bank and get a new account, right? You have your driver's license, you want to open an account, no problem. Spain, 15 steps.
Yes. I do think though sometimes you forget how frustrating it can be as well. The U.S. has really bad customer service, and
Of course.
also you can end up on a phone call that ends up being like 3 hours, and they'll swear to you that the problem's solved, and then it's not, and you have to hit all restart and call the 800 number again, and you're never speaking to someone in our actual country, and there's all those headaches. But yeah, I it's the never knowing when things are actual like business hours. They're just kind of, oh, this is our time, and you might catch them right and you might not. And the with especially with government in France, it's like everything's very old school, and everything is still like send stuff in the mail, and they
Yep.
request everything Like my visa, I've renewed three. I actually did this just yesterday. I renewed my visa for the third time, and they ask for the same documents over and over, and they want a brand new reissued marriage certificate. And I'm thinking, this doesn't change. Why do you need this again? And I have a son that's French and American. Why do you need all these things to prove that I'm basically married to a French person? But they really, I think they purposely make it difficult to try to keep people out of the country at this point. That's what it feels like, anyways. How long have you been in Spain now? 5 months?
Since August.
Okay, so not that long. Do you have anything you're missing in terms of just societal or food or anything like that yet? Or are you still new enough that you're not missing anything?
I think I'm missing sandwiches. Just, grabbing a quick and the sandwiches here are delicious.
They're
But
different though.
sometimes you're like, God, I wish I could just roll into a Wawa.
I desperately want a burrito place to magically appear
Oh,
near me. You just can't get any Mexican food in, I don't think, anywhere in
no, they
Europe, to be
have
honest.
they have Mexican restaurants, but guacamole and tortillas do not make a Mexican restaurant in Spain.
Right. And they do have I'm assuming, well, maybe not, in grocery stores here they have like the fajita kits or like the
Okay.
taco kits, and it's just basically, the taco and the seasoning. I don't know what else is in this kit, but
Yeah.
and my mother-in-law's prepared it a couple times, and it's so not Mexican food. And they also don't know what spicy is in France. I don't know about the Spanish, but in
No,
France
they don't at all.
it's crazy. Like my tolerance is so high, and nothing is spicy enough for me here.
I love spicy food. My wife does as well. There's no spicy here. They have a chickpea dish called callos, and they're like, "Oh, be careful, it's very spicy." No, like, like a little kid would eat it, no problem.
um in terms of, so you what was your last place of work? You were working out of Oregon, is that correct?
Yeah.
And what were you doing? You were ghostwriting as well in Oregon, or the switch all occurred around the same time?
The major switch happened when I got here. Uh, I was writing a bit on the side, but I was working just in commercial real estate in account management in Oregon. So
Okay. And how, why ghostwrite? Have you always been a writer, or?
always been a writer. Uh, really wanted to see what I could do with it when I got here. My wife has the W-2. She's an accountant. So I got here and I was like, okay, what am I going to do with my time? And now the first couple months was spent just trying to figure out stuff.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, and then you sit down and you say, okay, what am I going to do now? And I've been writing and picking up clients and really, really enjoying it.
Nice. In terms of your own personal LinkedIn, I've had really, really low impressions with, I would say, the last like 14 days at least, like last
Okay.
14 posts where my impressions are just, it seems like no matter what I post, it's just complete garbage in terms of impressions. And I do see, but maybe it's my biased algorithm just feeding me what I want in terms of LinkedIn content. But it does seem that LinkedIn is up to something. Do you agree? Like they're cutting impressions and trying to like subtly tell us something. Like we don't want this type of content anymore. Or
So set me a baseline. What is really bad for you
um,
maybe
so
over the last week?
so I went from probably 3 weeks ago. I had a post that hit like 15,000 impressions,
Okay.
and then the last 10 posts I would say are all those just instant flops under 300 impressions.
Wow.
Yeah, like really,
Um,
really bad.
so I don't know. That's a hard question to answer because uh, I've been pretty consistent 30 to 50,000 impressions a week.
Okay.
Have I had some flops in there? Yes. But I've also had some weird ones, like we visited the Netherlands a couple weeks back, and my post about stroop waffles was like a 25,000 impression post, which is unusual, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, who
I, ju-
knew?
I I just spoke to someone else. Actually, I just released the podcast today with Chris. He posted about a Oreo like fitness type recipe that
Yeah.
he like makes his own like homemade ice cream, and that and running. And he's in the last 90 days he's got and nothing really besides like just basically stuff about his own personal life, and he's got like 500,000 impressions. So
Holy cow.
um is it that LinkedIn is becoming like Facebook in a way? Is it wanting more? If so, your post, I mean, you're consistently doing it. What's the overall theme there? Is it just writing about your personal life, or is there?
I write a pretty good mixture about, or at least in my opinion, about expat life, the unexpected challenges of that. I talk a lot about parenting, just being a dad, kind of the failures of doing that. I think parents resonate with that. And I talk a lot about my upbringing, kind of what I've learned. I really try to bring just humanity to my posts, if there's, for lack of a better word, because I think LinkedIn needs that. There's a ton of people that are self congratulatory. Um, how many pics do we need of someone out at a steakhouse celebrating their trade show uh, victories? Um, and I posted about when I left my pretty heavy corporate job and about that journey, kind of what I learned while looking for a job. And, in today's market, finding a job is that's a sure way to get a lot of eyeballs because people resonate with that, right? But I don't necessarily have a theme. And I've had some conversations with people online that are say, hey, you got to have your ICP. You have to post about everything within that ICP. And I don't really agree with that. I think people want to know people, and uh, if you have a story to tell and you can do that, I think you can be really successful on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's difficult to say for sure what's the like path to success on LinkedIn, because I've heard your version, and then I've heard people who sort of stick to pillars of basically the same topics, which is, I mean, it sounds like you're kind of doing that in your own way, but it's very personal. And I think also what you're saying kind of resonates with the whole anything that can be replicated by AI, you should definitely not be doing. You should
Yeah.
do everything should be coming from your personal experience, your lived experience, and that's going to resonate. And I think you get rewarded because people realize they're actually reading a human's writing as opposed to anything from AI. Um, but then there's like the LinkedIn gurus who will say, nothing's changed at all. It's exactly like it was before, and just keep on and basically feed 360 brew, the same concept over and over and repurpose it, and you're feeding the system, letting it know that this is what you're all about, and eventually it will share that content with the people who are looking for marketing or looking for a ghostwriter and all that. So I think there is something to that, but it also is like very boring. If you look at these people who have a million followers on Instagram, it's lifeless. I don't know if you have that same
It is.
feeling, where it's like, okay, if you're brand new to LinkedIn and you're trying to figure out, they're a great resource for that. But I don't care to hear that you're making $30,000 in revenue from selling a LinkedIn course, and you're now selling your version of AI to help me write LinkedIn posts. And at the same time telling me to be authentic and doing all these things, but really you're just all your money's coming from people who just are sort of guessing and they get lost and they're looking for like a quick fix. Um,
You know those posters in corporate America when you go into the HR office and it's your hiring day and they're like, through team, we can achieve great things, or it's something cliche, right?
yes.
And that's how I feel when I read those posts. If I have to say there's number one goal when I write a post is I try to write it in a way where I'm taking a story and I take ownership of that and I don't speak in generalities, but I try to write it in a way that someone can say, "Hey, I was in that story. I remember being that way." Um, I wrote about a couple weeks back. I wrote about when I was a kid growing up in Minnesota. We would ride our bikes on Saturday morning and go to the football stadium and go under the bleachers and see if we could find people that, you know, lost coins, lost dollar bills, whatever, a little treasure hunt, right? And I think that allows for people to have a reprieve and to say, hey, you know what? We've been entrepreneurs for a long time. You just didn't call that when you were a kid, right? You're out there, and I know you're not building a business, but you're out trying to figure stuff out. And the end goal, you just want to go to the corner store and be able to buy candy, but you're always kind of trying to figure stuff out, and people resonate with having an opportunity to look back at their childhood and say, hey, I did that too, or when I was 20 I was feeling lost, or when I was 30 I was feeling lost. Hell, I'm 47. There's days when I'm like, what am I doing?
I totally agree. I'm 43 and I feel lost every day. And then I think, how do I have a 5-year-old?
Right?
How am I raising another human? That makes me think I need to do a post about selling snow cones because I did that when I was a little kid, and that was awesome. If you got a car pull over and give you a couple bucks and you're just
Yeah,
slinging ice,
yeah.
that's awesome. Is there when you're writing your post, I doubt you're thinking this way, but is there a length that you're trying to like a word count you're trying to keep it under? Like what's too long? Or is there not too long? It's just trying to get, the
Um,
point across.
so I don't think there's too as long as you are linking your segments of thought together. You're saying, all right, this statement and it's leading into the next one. Anyone that's writing on LinkedIn, this is probably the single best piece of advice that I got. Someone told me, stop over explaining. Write out your post, look at it, clean it up, and then try your best to cut 50% of it. You don't have to tell the moral of the story through your storytelling and then explain the moral of the story at the end. And I think people do that, right? Or when you're writing a hook, you'll write something, you're trying to bring your audience in, and then you give them the whole story in the next line. And if you do that, it kills your reach, right? Like, why am I going to stay on a post if someone says, uh, "The worst day of my life was last week," and then the next post says, "My dog of 17 years got hit by a car." It's a morbid example, but you just gave away the entire post. Post would have been much better if last week was the worst week of my life, or talk about the memories, talk about the trips you took with your dog, talk about the time when you had a horrible day at work and you came home and your dog was the only one that gave you some reprieve from that feeling of failure. Those are the posts that resonate because anybody can say that. I don't know if you have a dog, but like we had dogs uh, in the past, and you have a bad day, your dog doesn't care. Your dog is stoked to see you. And when you write like that, you let people involve themselves in the story, right?
Yeah. I I recently saw was it a podcast or just a clip of someone on their post, but a big LinkedIn person who said that you shouldn't share too many of these personal stories anymore. and and I completely disagree with because it's not professional. Like that, there's also that
Sure.
argument. And I totally disagree because the only people that I find interesting enough to interact with their content and follow on LinkedIn are people who are being real. Like,
Sure.
and some of them are actually very unhinged in the way they're doing it. Like, people calling out these people stealing posts and then going after them in the comments and be like, "Hey, that was my post. Like, why are you stealing my content and stuff?" Like, I respect that. I mean, I don't know if I'd actually do it consistently the way I've seen some people do it, but um, I think the really being human and showing that you have feelings and you have a family and you have a dog and all these things matter because when it's all said and done, especially if you're selling a service, people want to buy from someone that they can relate to. If you're just going to
100%.
be generic, it's like there's a million ghostwriters, there's a million photographers. Like, why you? And so there has to be some connection on some level. And I know when I was still doing weddings full time, the easiest way for me to connect was to hopefully put enough of my bio out there on my website, on my Instagram and stuff, so that when I have this first interaction with a couple, like about to go take their engagement photos or something, they'd go, "Oh, I saw this," or "You've been to this place," and then they relate, just like we did now. Like, "Oh, you live in Spain and you've gone through the headache of living abroad and all that." Like that instantly, it like takes all these barriers away, and it makes it so much easier to feel connected and like, oh, I feel like he's a friend, not a person selling me something. So i I don't believe in this like hiding behind your content. I don't know if that makes sense, like some
Oh,
people are doing where they, I got a job post, congratulations. Like, to me, that's not that type of LinkedIn is so dead, but so many people are still doing it.
yeah, every day your post is or your feed is flooded with, I'm incredibly excited about dot, 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 your next opportunity. And that's great. Those are applause worthy. Anyone that's getting a job in the environment is great. You asked me right at the beginning uh, what really prompted the move. And I speak a lot about my father, who was worked in corporate America his whole life. He died very young when I was 27. Uh, those words he said to me when he was in the hospital, he had leukemia. He said, you know, don't spend your entire life not doing what you want because you can end up here, before you're ready while you're waiting your whole life to retire and do things. And then he never got that opportunity. And that has driven every choice in my life. And I've posted about it. So I'm definitely a violator of the don't share too heavily. Um, but I've gotten countless DMs that have people have said, "Oh, I had a brother or sister, or I had a parent or a spouse pass away, and your words really resonated." And LinkedIn is a community, and I don't want a community that everyone is always celebrating wins and hides the losses and the failures, because I think that is where life happens and that's where we grow, right? Through challenges.
I guess the reason, now that I think of it that way, the reason those posts don't hit, like the launching a project, or I got a new job, or I got a promotion, why those are kind of frowned upon is because the people who use those are infrequent link they're not daily LinkedIn users. They might go on there once a month to, randomly look at things, and then they're basically ghosting their own profile. They just don't interact, they don't do anything, and they're just going on there to get a job, to talk about the job, and then they disappear for 6 months. And the reason that no one likes those posts is because people don't like that type of person, which is a person who they want us to be happy for them, but it's like, I don't know who you are besides your job, and we're all so much more than that. So you have to, like you're saying, you have to give to the community in some way, so they also are, when you have a win, they feel like they're winning. When I see someone that I know that got a promotion, I'm like, that's awesome, and I know how
Exactly.
much they took to get there. But these just random, like infrequent posts, to me, it's you might as well not even be on the platform because it's just meaningless to you and everyone else. I like the ones where people are taking advantage of that feature and making fun of it. Those are the best ones, in my opinion, because it like gives you free boost on engagement and you
Yeah.
can really have fun with it, which I've done in the past myself. Um,
It is. It's a reciprocal platform, right? And if you're only celebrating your wins, it's like walking into a bar where you don't know everybody and expecting everyone to buy you drinks.
exactly. Just to go back to about your with your dad and everything, I've always been that way. I don't know where it's come from, but I've always lived my life to as full as possible and traveled as much as possible because I always thought I don't want to be one of these retired people who decides, at 65 now I'm going to go see the Eiffel Tower because I know when I'm 65 I won't want to leave home probably because
Right.
things just become more difficult and you have health issues and all those things. So uh, I strongly agree. Anyone that's watching this, if there's anyone at all, if you're thinking about making a huge leap, moving abroad, to just traveling outside of a resort or anything, please do it. Because James obviously did it. I did it. And yes, there's lots of headaches involved, but there's so much reward and pleasure also. And so I just highly recommend people to not let the world take them down, especially in these times, because there will always be excuse, and don't let those excuses end up in regret. I don't know if you agree with that, James.
100%. Right.
Is there anything you want to promote in terms? I mean, obviously, I'll link your LinkedIn, but is there anything in terms of if someone's wanting to find out more about having you as their ghostwriter or anything like that?
Reach out through the DMs. I appreciate that, Dustin. Anyone that wants to follow along, and I really love it when creators reach out and say, "Hey, trying to grow my presence. Can you take a look at stuff?" We didn't get a chance to talk about it, but your headline, what it says when someone clicks over to your profile, that 1.5 seconds you have is probably the most vital way if you want to grow on LinkedIn. Make it very digestible for people to say, hey, James Martin does this.
I agree. Well, thank you very much, James. I appreciate your time and enjoy Spain.
I appreciate it. Same in France. Thanks for the time. Enjoy it.
All right.